The avoidant does not process shame in real time. When they were actively devaluing you, ghosting you, treating you with coldness and inconsistency, they felt justified. Their defensive structure allowed them to rationalize every hurtful action as necessary self-protection, as reasonable boundary setting, as simply being honest about their limitations. But time and distance have a way of stripping these rationalizations bare. The avoidant now sits with the memories of how they treated you, and without the immediate pressure of intimacy to trigger their defenses, they can see their behavior with devastating clarity. The shame is not abstract. It is visceral, consuming, and impossible to escape because it is rooted in the undeniable truth that they hurt someone who did not deserve it. The collapse of justification. In the moment, the avoidant convinced themselves that their behavior was warranted. You were too much. You wanted too much. You could not handle their need for space. These narratives protected them from confronting the reality that their actions were cruel, regardless of their intentions. But now, with time creating distance from their defensive reactions, those narratives no longer hold. The avoidant replays interactions and sees them differently. The message you sent that they ignored for days was not demanding. It was reasonable. The vulnerability you expressed that they dismissed was not weakness. It was courage. The consistency you offered that they took for granted was not obligation. It was genuine care. This reframing is excruciating because it means admitting that the problem was not you. The problem was them. They treated someone good with patterns born from their own brokenness, and no amount of rationalization can change that fact now. The recognition of undeserved cruelty. What deepens the shame is the avoidant's belated recognition that you did not earn the treatment you received. You were patient when they were inconsistent. You were understanding when they withdrew. You respected their boundaries while maintaining your own dignity. You gave them space without making them feel guilty. And in return, they gave you coldness, distance, and eventual abandonment. This imbalance is undeniable in retrospect. The avoidant can see now that you were doing your best to navigate their patterns with grace, while they were doing the minimum required to keep you accessible without having to be vulnerable. The cruelty was not in single actions, but in the accumulation of small dismissals, each one chipping away at your sense of worth, while they remained protected behind walls of indifference. The avoidant is ashamed because they recognize they weaponized your care, used your patience as permission to avoid growth, and discarded you when the discomfort of intimacy became too great. The shame that has no resolution. The most painful aspect of the avoidance shame is that it cannot be resolved through apology or changed behavior toward you. You have moved on. You have healed. You have closed the door on a dynamic that required you to shrink yourself to accommodate their dysfunction. The avoidant cannot go back and treat you better. They cannot undo the harm. They cannot offer the consistency and emotional presence they should have offered when it mattered. So the shame sits with them, unresolved and unresolvable. Some avoidants use this shame as motivation to change, to pursue therapy, to address their attachment wounds so they do not repeat the pattern with the next person. But many simply carry it silently, unable to make amends, unable to forgive themselves, unable to do anything except recognize that they treated someone valuable with disposable carelessness and must now live with that reality, the permanent mark you left on their conscience. The avoidant may never tell you they are ashamed. They may never reach out to apologize or acknowledge what they did, but the shame exists regardless of whether you ever know about it. You left a mark on their conscience that time will not erase. Every future relationship will be measured against how they treated you and the regret that followed. Every moment of potential intimacy will be haunted by the memory of the intimacy they destroyed through their own fear. The avoidant is ashamed, and that shame is both their punishment and potentially their teacher. Whether they learn from it, whether it transforms them into someone capable of showing up differently, remains to be seen. But the shame itself is permanent, a psychological scar that reminds them of the person they hurt and the person they revealed themselves to be in the process.